Was a girl running in our group. She had a high-speed motor in a 40 Ford Coupe. She had a racing cam and a supercharged. Look at Buddy, hot rod and large. She's a hot rod. She's a hot rod.
And we're talking about cars, which is what we always do. And Charles was asking me about a couple things about this whole battery thing and the UAW. And well, you know what? They're complaining at that plant in Ohio because they have injuries. They've had fires. They've had this Ultium battery that was supposed to be so much safer. Guess what? It's not doing so well. But, well, it is what it is. We're going to wait until we get, it's just going to have to find our way through this. You know, being fresh out of the starting block, I hate to bring this one up, but I said this was going to happen, and it has. Okay? You heard it here first, God, 6 months ago. But you young auto borrowers falling further behind. That's the headline. Generation Z and millennial borrowers are falling significantly behind on their car payments at rates last seen during the financial crisis of 2008 and 9, according to analysis of Federal Reserve data by a car insurance comparison website that's called Jerry. I don't know why they would call it some guy's name. And that's during a time when they didn't have to make their federal student loan payments, a budget burden that could ding millions of borrowers' credit, and the alternative credit score provider Vantage Score notates that. They're 3 months late. The Federal Reserve's quarterly household debt report, which draws on Equifax data to produce its auto loan delinquency results, breaks out borrowers into age ranges, including those 18 to 29, 30 to 39. Those brackets captured what the Pew Research Center had previously defined as older Gen Zers, that's the generation starting with 1997 births, and nearly all millennials, those born 81 to 96. Through the organization in May said it would reduce its use of generation labels. So they want to.
Well, so instead of addressing the problem, they go, well, we'll not put labels on it.
We won't call them Gen X and Gen Z and millennials. We won't do that now because we're worried that these kids can't make these payments. Chuck, these cars are too doggone expensive. I don't care what anybody says.
And that becomes the core of the issue is, again, we're not saying here's how much a car is. We're saying what do you want your payment to be? And then you don't realize, am I buying it for, like I get a 4-year loan, a 5-year loan, a 6-year loan? And that's part of the problem is these kids look at it. And I think one of the other things is, I mean, again, we were talking earlier about sort of generational issues and things like that. The idea that we're not teaching kids the importance of debt. We're not teaching them, like you said, I mean.
How to buy.
Well, there are kids that are coming out of college that have a student loan payment higher than the average mortgage payment.
Oh, absolutely.
And they're going to have that for decades. How are they going to be able to afford a car or a house or anything like that if they're stuck with this huge payment?
Huge payment.
And again, it's not to talk about, what we should or shouldn't be doing about it. But that becomes the question is if I've got this huge payment every month before anything else, and you can't default on it, you can't do anything about it. You can't refinance it, you're paying it.
You're paying it.
You're paying it. Fake your death. That's what we got. Even then, they'll probably still come looking for you. So,
digging you up.
So I think that's one of the things is the kids are just not thinking about how budgeting and financing works.
The ones I talk to, the young people I talk to, when you tell them how much a car should cost or would cost, they want to know, well, how much is that a month?
Well, they want to make fun of you and say, well, I know you used to buy a car for $100, but that's the whole thing is that they look at it as a necessity. They look at it.
This is modern day. This is okay. This is acceptable.
But Let's go back a couple of weeks back to when we had the boys in here then. maybe that's one of the things that's scaring kids off from buying a car is they go, well, I can't find an affordable car.
It would scare me off.
I can't find a car for a few $100s like the old days. Maybe I just won't buy one.
You can't find a car for a few $1,000s. That's the problem.
What I'm saying, is that maybe these kids are smart, saying I'll just rely on my parents to drive me around.
I mean, these F&I guys are offering 7-year or 10-year loans, payments that are just ridiculous. But, you can have this car. You get you in this car for only $5,000 over the sticker asking price.
Right.
The suggested retail price by the manufacturer.
Well, and I think that goes back to the idea of, in the old days, we always used to say, take your dad shopping with you, take your grandpa, like you take somebody who knows the game, they'll go with you and they'll help negotiate. They'll make sure you don't buy a lemon. I think a lot of these people are just, again, even that idea of buying stuff online and just kind of getting it delivered to your house. You're not taking somebody. You're not taking it to Big George's garage to get inspected anymore. You're not asking.
I'm telling you, Chuck. The first time I walked into a showroom with a kid, one of my kids, and they told my kid to buy that car, he had to pay $5,000 over that price on the window.
You just laugh and walk out the door?
They'd have to call the cops.
Yeah,
because I would be livid.
Right.
I'd be an animal. That's just wrong.
You know what they would say is, well, you're an old man. This is how it is now.
No, it's not how it is.
And this is the thing is, if people say, oh, well, I guess this is how it is now, they're going to accept it instead of walking out of the show. And that, I think there's a lot of that with this new generation is we've talked about this before, is I don't think they like having these interactions. I think they don't like to have conflict. So I think the idea of going into a showroom and having, a polite argument about a price. You just say, okay, that's the price. Okay, I don't want to argue. I don't want to cause a ruckus.
They're lazy. That's called lazy.
See, I look forward to stuff like that. I'm like, oh, you're going to negotiate a car? Bring me with you. I can't wait. I love stuff like that. But I should have been a lawyer. But I mean, that's sort of the thing is I think this new generation, that's the price.
They take it.
Yeah, they take it.
They just take it.
Oh, the 20% interest? Okay. I think that's the problem.
$1,000 a month for 10 years.
Right.
My God. They're... What you know what? Because it's the new way, because it's what's going on now, doesn't make it any righter. It doesn't make it correct.
Right.
It doesn't make it fair. They are taking advantage of a group of people that are taking advantage of laziness.
Well, then that would be the argument is that sort of the older generations, we almost have a responsibility to say, hey, if somebody younger, you're going to go buy a car, don't go alone. Whether you're a guy, a girl, whoever. Because I think just that same idea is they see here's a young kid who I'm going to be able to push them around. They're not going to, I'm going to sell them a car, maybe has some issues, and they're not going to say no to me. Okay, if you bring in an adult with them, you bring in an old man like yourself, I'm not going to mess around with that guy.
No, they're not. And I'll give you an example. Ronnie that works for me, my manager, my ace, he has a good friend that wanted to buy a car for his son, first car. They went together at night and looked at no less than 20 cars before Ronnie found one he would let him buy. Because they were just junk, used cars.
Right. Well, and that was, I remember my...
And priced, oh my God, out of this world for junk.
Well, and the last car that I bought, we literally almost went through every car in the used car lot to the point that they were getting frustrated. I said, look, I'm not happy. We're going to work through this. I'm not just going to buy... the first, one of the first 5 cars you bring out. So we're gonna work through these things, and I finally found the one I wanted. But again, that whole idea of pressure. The guy brings you a car, and you go, I remember when I was test driving, they brought me a Mustang and they brought me a PT Cruiser. I said, no, come on, that's not what I'm looking for.
I'm not 18, and I'm not 47.
Well, but that's what they were trying to get rid of. So they try to talk me into a Mustang.
Oh yeah, they want to sell the ones they need to get out of.
That's what I'm saying is that when you go to the used car lot, that's what they try to sell you. They look at you and say, "Oh, we're going to get rid of one of these cars today. It's been sitting around too long."
You get rid of one of those, and the boss buys you a bottle of champagne.
Right. So that's why they bring those out
get
first.
Get that out of the floor.
So it's kind of like, okay, bring out those first 5 cars. Nope, none of those. Keep going.
Yeah.
But some people don't know that.
Well, and I tell you, what's going on today is not fair. It's not right. It's coming around. I will tell you that it is loosening up.
We should offer that as a service,
old
curmudgeons help you
shopping,
with
shopping, car shoppers.
Yeah.
Car Shoppers Inc.
You have an app. You can hire Big George on the weekends to come shop with
you. Don't want me to go shopping with you. I'm telling you, I'm the worst. But it's still, it won't fix itself. It's slowly but surely starting to come around because They had a lapse of sales. They weren't generating any income.
Well, but they got used to this idea of I've got low inventory. I can charge you $5,000 over sticker. We talked about this the last couple of weeks. We see inventory is loosening up. You're going to have more options.
Absolutely.
So I mean, the main takeaway here is those pandemic days of take 5,000 over, take what they got. Those days are coming to an end.
Well, and the other thing is, nobody is trading in their cars for a new car, or they didn't for the longest time.
We don't have the inventory right now.
So we are replacing more car, and we are, in my business,
right,
we are rebuilding more cars for people so they can drive it another 2 years.
Right.
1 year. I want 1 year, George. Give me 1 year out of this. Make it safe for a year. And, things like that. Well, guess what? When they do get traded in, the used cars that are going to be available are shot.
Right.
They're garbage.
Thought you were going to say something else, but
no.
Oh, okay. So, but again, that same idea about the leasing and all that stuff is that you're right, because even if we start loosening up the new cars, it's going to be a year or two before we start seeing good used cars again.
Any decent used cars,
right? And people have to break that mindset of, okay, I can get a new car if I get rid of this. Again, that lease cycle and all.
Oh, the only people getting rich are the junkyards,
right?
Because that's where they end up. Once they get done with them, that's where they end up.
Well, you know what we should do, though, because why don't we take a break? But you know what I wanted to have you mention, because we haven't mentioned this in a while. So let's say somebody's listening and they hear a car that they know, like a relative or somebody's driving. If they missed the details, how do they find out more about these recalls? Let's tell them about that.
Okay, we can do that.
Do you want to do that after the break?
I can do it right now if you want.
Okay, go ahead.
It's NHTSA.com. They have a phone number. You can call. You can put your VIN number in right there on the website, and it will tell you if there's any open recalls on that vehicle. Also, if it's a used car, it will tell you if that recall has been done yet or not. So you will know what you have coming in store for you.
So that would be a question then. If you're looking for a used car, that's something you should plug in. Is that like a Carfax thing as well? Will it tell you that?
Yes, it's better than Carfax because this is true.
But I mean, you still should.
Carfax is owned by somebody.
So if you're buying a car with an open recall, you should definitely have them address that before you even take it off.
Well, it's against the law to sell it with an open recall.
Well, there you go.
But
remind them of that, though.
But not all dealers are scrupulous. That's just how that works. You can go a long time and have a car. These 2003 Dodge pickups, 18,000 of them or whatever that they're going to ask you not to drive. You don't think that some of those aren't on their third and fourth owner and still haven't had their airbags put in or their inflators changed? I'm telling you, this is how it works. You gotta watch what you gotta mind your P's and Q's when you're car shopping today. Well, there's several cars out there that when you go to change the battery, they have to be hooked to a computer and relearned.
So
otherwise, the radio's not going to work.
So I was going to ask you about that because they mentioned that in the video. I was going to ask you how critical that is.
It is critical.
Okay, well.
It is critical, and I can't even do that for you because I don't have any European things in my scanner.
Well, and that goes back.
I might. You call me tomorrow, and I'll see what I can do.
Well, maybe I'll have her stop by. But everything, the car started, it didn't blow up or smoke or anything, so I think we're in good shape. But, again, it's a funny thing where something so simple as changing a battery or changing your brakes, stuff that we used to be able to do in our driveway. Well, I mean, and the guy didn't mention the computer till the very end. It's like, we're all done. It's like, okay, now plug in your computer. It's like, and reset it. Like, plug in the serial number of the battery. It's like,
oh, I didn't do any of
and
that.
Then I said, well, I hope it starts. But again, it says stuff like that where
you talk about brakes. They have electronic rear
brakes, the sensors
brakes now.
And stuff. Well, I'm saying even the wear sensors and all that stuff, where it's not like just throw new pads on and call it a day.
The electronic parking brakes in the back. If you don't know what you're doing, and you used to do all your brakes,
right?
It's real easy to do brakes.
You know me, I used to change my brakes like every 2 weeks I don't know why, but it's the way it worked. But in the old days, you could do that.
If you don't take a computer, hook it to your car, and discombobulate the rear electronic parking brake,
right, you're
going to lose a finger.
Oh, really? Just going to slam shut?
Oh, absolutely. Whenever it sees the need.
Oh, wow.
You got to disembowel the emergency brakes.
But again,
stop them.
I mean, that goes back to the idea where you can't just on the driveway just change something out real quick anymore like the old days.
Not anymore. No, they're trying to make it so you cannot. They're trying to make it so I cannot, but they're with this right to repair and everything, we're starting to come back on them. Speaking of the UAW, UAW leaders are visiting the Detroit 3 plants before the bargaining begins.
Oh.
UAW leaders on Wednesday marked the start of what are expected to be contentious contract negotiations with the Detroit 3 in a non-traditional way, visiting auto plants and speaking directly with members. That's unheard of, to be honest with you. UAW President Shawn Fain, this guy he's a go-getter, this kid. He's from the rank and file. And other members of the International Executive Board appeared outside Stellantis Sterling Heights Assembly Plant early Wednesday morning and planned to be at General Motors and Ford plants later in the day. The union chose the plant photo ops instead of traditional handshakes when company executives to kick off negotiations. Fain said workers told him they want to see an end to the two-tiered wage system, an end to temporary workers, and the reinstatement of health benefits such as cost of living adjustments and pensions. To be sure, in recent years, union workers have gotten wage increases. They've gotten pay raises. More generous tweaks to the formula used to calculate profit-sharing checks, that too, and caps on the number of temporary workers among the gains. But Fain is seeking to win back virtually all the concessions they lost in 2007. Now that's 14 years ago. 14 years they gave up.
Two crashes ago, man.
Oh, yeah. 14 years ago, they gave up all these concessions.
Wow.
So that the companies could stay in business and never got them all back totally.
And then the economy recovered, and they said, let's get those concessions back. I said, what concessions?
Yeah.
What concessions? You've always got paid this much.
We didn't give you that. No, we didn't take that either. Automakers and repair shops, here's my strike. They're striking a new right to repair deal covering telematics data. This is right up your alley, Chuck. Right. Telematics.
Mm-hmm.
Groups representing automakers and independent repair shops on Tuesday said they have reached a new agreement on automotive right to repair that would include the necessary telematics data, which I've got to have to work on your car. I've got to have data. The Alliance for Automotive Innovation, the Automotive Service Association, and the Society of Collision Repair Specialists said the updated commitment affirms a 2014 National Memorandum of Understanding between automakers and the independent repair industry. The 2014 agreement, which came about after Massachusetts passed its own automotive right to repair law in 2013, gave shops in all states the same diagnostic and repair information. Yeah, under the new deal, if you want to pay for it, you can have that information, but you've got to pay them for it. Under the new deal, the group said independent repair shops will continue to have access to the same diagnostic and repair information automakers make available to their authorized dealers.